Chervin!
Bro, what up, man?
Good morning. How are you?
Grand Rising. I am good, man. Crazy sequence of events over the last 24 hours over here at the sanctuary. We're under some kind of crazy storm, and there was multiple earthquakes just pounding away at the land yesterday. So a lot of energy right now. So I'm just kind of managing through that. How are you?
We're great. We're back home in Scottsdale right now, just getting kind of prepped and ready to head back out into the desert. And we had an amazing time last week. Got lots of sun, as you suggested. Got our naked bodies out in the sun as soon as it was up until the moment it was down. Got to take cold plunges and springs every day. We ate super clean. I'm with friends. I'm with family. I'm curious what your thoughts are on this too. I get sometimes in my own little world, and I forget that there's even like a pandemic going on, and I wonder to what degree is like my responsibility to be in that world and in my own. Do you have any thoughts on that?
You have no responsibility. There's nothing that ties you to anything except whatever you're present in at your God-given ability. So all of that's just an illusion. The whole thing where we are obligated for certain things. No, the only thing you're obligated for is yourself. Number one. Once you have self down, then you have the ability to take care of everybody around you. But to feel into the we have this empathy in us, right? And we also want to know. We have an instinct where we want to learn and we want to know what's going on. That needs to be separated from an intrinsic pool where you are feeling any shame or any guilt or anything. So we've got to separate that. That's that's Carl Jung at his finest. Yeah. And I heard you mention Paul Chek. I've been going back and forth with Paul all rise, all late last night. I was listening to the podcast he had just completed with my cousin David Wolf. And we were listening to that all night long. And a lot of insights were coming from that. I wish I was in that conversation with them, but I felt like I was. And we're so easily taken out of our present. And by getting back into our presence, then we can really help people. It's when our energies are completely pulled and disenfranchised from us, we're not helping nobody. We're actually living in fear and suffering and pain, and ultimately everybody suffers around us. So we got to separate that. This world's crazy right now. There's so much energy swirling around right now, which is why you being out on that land, naked, with your family, with your loved ones, under Father, Son, that's the best medicine of all time. So you're doing it right.
Thanks, man. You mentioned the guilt and the shame, and to kind of, to connect to that first question, as a business owner too, I'm wrestling with when is it okay for me to to market my business again? When is it because I'm not using this pandemic necessarily to try to sell a new product or anything, but there's a new need right now. And people, I own a gym and I have around 200 people who call on me, rely on me to help guide them through their health, wealth, and fitness type goals. Yep. And we're just filling a new need, which is online training, at-home training. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on when is it okay for me to start letting people know that I have this service and I can help guide them.
Yesterday. What are you talking about? I mean, the only people that are going to have a reaction that are going to take it as some type of taking advantage of or whatever or any of that nonsense. Yeah, that's their own story. That's their own fear. That's their own pain. That's their own trauma. And they got to find something to discard that trauma off on. Who gives a fuck? It's actually now is the perfect time. I mean,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. I mean, this pandemic broke out, and I've been working on creating a very, very absorbable and effective form of colloidal silver. I've been working with the actual PhD doctors that are developing this at Clarkson University for the last couple of months. I mean, I've been in alchemy my whole life. So
Yeah.
Cymbiotika positioned itself to be, here for these types of situations. Whether this flu shit is real or not, doesn't matter. It's a call to action. It's a call to preparing for the worst. It's a call to preparing your body and mind for anything. That's what this whole thing's for. That's why we're having a complete reset. So for you to have any hesitation about wanting to accelerate anything that's going to bring vibrancy and energy and awareness to anyone is a complete disharmony to yourself.
Thank you for that.
Of course, brother, on an alchemical level, I can actually get into the physiology of it, how our body works, the self-regulation of our immune system, how the left brain and right brain connect to each other on both rational and irrational. All of these things we're basically in a chemical suit. And so you got to let go of all of that shit and just go full force, and not in a crazy egoic way. Of course not. You don't even have that in you, but in a way where this is a conscious decision that you're making, and you have intention behind it. And it's all about intention. Every single thing that you do, if your intention is in the right place, who cares what anyone thinks? Because again, that's their own story that they're making up. You know what I'm saying? And
Yes,
we're in a debt slave reality. I mean, that's the fact of the matter is, meaning that it's gotten to the point now where you need money to drink clean water. You see, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's how far off track we are right now. And so in order for you to focus on your family, to create abundance, doing what you love, never have a hesitation whatsoever.
Thank you for that. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely, man.
There's, I almost, like, in a way, I almost don't want to talk about it, but at the same time, I think it's important because I have 200,000 people that follow me, and I have an opportunity to be a channel for people of truth, and right now there's so much inconsistency going on with what's real, what are the numbers like, and I don't know if you could just maybe shed some light on this pandemic, on the COVID virus, and what's the reality of it? Like, is it even fucking real, man? Like I question a lot of it, and I'm just curious what your kind of overall stance is on the situation.
It's quite the quandary for me personally. I have to be a little bit careful because of my position, right? I'm the face of Cymbiotika, and collectively our group we're reaching probably around 5-6 million people a week right now. Wow. And I haven't even pulled out the big guns. I mean, our Facebook page is doing almost like 12 million people a week just on the Facebook. My personal stuff. So I'm coming into a lot of people's like field. And so I'm careful because my purpose. So I used to be an extremely berserker truther. Okay. I mean, hardcore, like ready to storm the castle type berserker. You know what I'm saying?
That's how I feel.
Yeah, right.
It rattles me up, like, big
sure.
time. Yeah.
Because you have that DNA about you. You have that's probably part of your human design. You might be a generator. I don't know what your human design is, but your genetics and your soul's contract is here to not allow bullshit to affect you and everybody around you, because that's what real empathy is. A lot of the spiritual community are saying, I'm an empath and blah, 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 blah. Okay, that's no. Being an empath is where it actually changes your physiology, because you know we're being fucked with, we're being lied to, you know that there's so many people suffering, you know that there's so much demonology going on behind the scenes, you know that there's so much darkness happening, and you're thinking like, holy shit, how did we get here? Why are they doing this to the children? How is our Mother Earth taking on this onslaught? Why are we eating this shit food? Why are they polluting the water? Why are they polluting the skies? I mean, I can go on and on. Our whole entire judicial system, the U.S. foreign policy, the banking system, the whole thing is completely ran by basically some dark monopoly, and that monopoly is a parasite. So we're basically in a parasitic environment, and there's a virus in the system. So when you think about what COVID-19 is, and you know, Corona, the crown, right? It's stamping its like imprint onto us. Now, the way I feel about this situation is that there are people getting sick, but is it from coronavirus? I don't know. Viruses can't spread through spitting and sneezing and stuff like that. Viruses can only be spread through blood and sexual transmission. That's just the core of virus. You don't have to be a pathologist to know that, or, you know, epidemiologist. This is a fact. And so what is really going on? You know what I mean? So people are getting sick. More people are dying every day from heart disease, lymphomas. You know, I can go down the whole.
The opioid crisis.
The opioid crisis, just that alone. Not only are people dying from that crisis, but entire generations of family are being completely ripped apart. I know personally, because I have experience with it in very close parts of my tribe, and I'm sure you as well. We're all kind of, we know someone's little brother, someone's little sister, someone, you know, crushed up an Oxycontin, slammed it, and died at age 14. It's insanity where we're at right now, and it's part of this whole system, and the system is designed to basically malign us with our journey, with our path. And it's taking us out of our soul's contract here and deviating us from the plan that we've carnated here for. And when you have 90% of the population, maybe even higher than that, 99% of the population, that are completely living out of their truth, they're not in their destiny, what they're here to do, you get a situation that we're in right now. A situation where we're immediately go into fighting without resolution, where we're immediately getting defensive, where we're immediately turning for substances that are numbing us, where we're immediately going into places where anything that can take us out of the present, right? This whole, you know, entertainment, right? Just the word magic on that. What does entertain means? To push your own agenda, and ment means to cement that into the brain. Television, program, spelling. They're casting spells in every single direction you can imagine. I usually don't talk about this stuff anymore, but it organically comes out like this. Yeah. You know, I'm very solution based, but at the same time, you can't provide a solution if you can't see the problem, right? That's like Proverbs, right? That's in the Bible. You know, like in order to see the light, you got to know what's there, and you have to cast the light on it. So I think what you're doing, and you're just stepping into your power, and you're bringing life into this world at the same time. So there's an alchemy that happened right there. And I really want to put a spotlight on you guys, because how many children are being born right now without the creation of cosmic love, where it's just some kind of lust, some kind of deceit, some kind of lie. So even from the jump start, the cosmic soup, the cosmic toroidal field of two souls coming together to create a portal of life for a soul to channel in is being done right now out of complete atrocity levels. So the soul never had a shot. And then take into the fact all the material concepts of it, of how a baby's being cultivated in the womb, the food, the nutrition, the mentality, the energy, the psychology, how a child's being born in modern day hospitals right now with all of the drugs, all the vaccines, all the wrong lighting, without connecting to their spirits and their doulas and their midwives and really understanding what their soul's purpose is from the childhood's first 6 years, when they're complete sponges trying to absorb everything around them. Their brain's in theta wave, which is a 6 to 10 hertz wave where everything's an imagination, and they learn everything around them, and their soul hasn't even incarnated until they're 7 years old. So I mean, I can go down the whole smorgasbord, and it's no wonder we're where we are right now. So my answer is that we got to know these things, and we got to start reverse engineering them and getting the message out. So as the generations start going, this generation, the next generation, we can somewhat bring the curve back. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Bro, I'm on that shit, dog. Like,
yeah,
it gives me the chills. I'm still learning, and I'm still coming into a lot of this awareness. But, like, brother, I am on that mission, man. Like, I'm so,
fuck yeah.
I'm so fired up right now to be able to be part of the shift in which, like, for me and my wife, having this child naturally in the way that it was meant to happen, and to get people to start changing the way that they view that, and thinking that, like, the hospital is the way that it should be. And we talked about this, I think, last time briefly we were on live, is the day that we start getting back to natural birth, and the day that women can bleed freely, is the day that, like, real change is starting to happen. And, like, I honor you so, it makes me almost want to cry. Like, I thank you so much, Chervin, for being such a good, just honest light for me, man. So I can just keep passing it along.
It's totally life affirming to know that there's, like, as Sam and I have been talking out in the woods, that there's people who are just levels above us who can help guide us along the way to keep validating and life affirming our truth, and knowing that, like, this feels right. It feels centered. It feels aligned. And actually, what I was going to ask you is that, as a woman, I know you were talking about this last time when we were on our, spotty live, that, when women really start to tap into our cyclical nature as beings, it's built in. For me, when I do start my moon time, this is a time for me to kind of go into that heavy, deep collective energy. And I just wanted to, like, understand, though, it's almost kind of scary sometimes to go into that. And for a lot of us, like for women who are on hormonal birth control, or, putting tampons up into our bodies and creating an inflammatory response, like, sometimes it's scary to, like, face the dark collective feelings of, like, 'cause we feel it all. And so it's like, what would you say to women to, like, continue to go into that underworld and, like, feel those emotions? Because that really is our job, is that we're showing, humanity, I guess, a glimpse of God, because we have that within us. So, like, how do you continually face those feelings and, like, move that heavy energy through, and then get back to this optimism and this truth that you know?
Well, so first of all, that was really beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, both of you. It's such an honor to receive your adulation and respect, and the feelings mutual. There's a reason why we're here today. And to what you're saying is, obviously, I can't speak from personal experience. I have never,
yeah.
But from what my scientific mind and my holistic mind and my spiritual embodiment feels, is the awareness that as a woman, you are tied into the cosmology of our world more than any being, as a feminine energy, meaning that your 28-day cycle coincides with the declination of our moon cycle. And that's why they call it a moon. And we've forgotten what we've forgotten. We've lost our connection to, the irrational, because it's become irrational. We think that it's all science. If it can't be measured, cut, taste, all that stuff, it just doesn't exist. And so we lost the connection to the subtle world. We've lost the connection to things that are so much more beyond, our left brain thinking, where it has to be conformed and in a right angle. And having the awareness and tuning into your body and tuning into the alchemy of what you are, that, like, how crazy is that? Like, once a month, whatever a month means on a Gregorian calendar, once in this time frame, your body lets go of life. And so, literally, there's a transition that happens within you. And when you look at what modern mainstream media has done, is they've vilified and made fun of this magical moment. It's become this PMS comedy show, and women have accepted that, and they've taken on that identity and that role. Like, oh, I can't, she's PMSing. Oh, I'm, this and that. I'm, my hormones are all over the place.
Yeah.
Well, for good reason. You're supposed to, as a woman, this is like, it's such a unique thing that a woman has, is that they have the ability to allow something to die in them once every 28 days. If they're on the proper cycle, you can give birth and release. What a tool. What an honor to have, and to literally physiologically understand that on the level. And I think getting into the science of it, the real science, okay, not the fake science where it's trying to like look at symptomology and mask things and not get to the solution, but get to the real physiology of what is occurring in the body, and viewing it as the utmost miracle of all time. And all of your vibration, all of your energy goes into that entire experience where you're hyper present on every feeling and every emotion. I mean, my God, you could write a thesis every time you're going through that process.
Yes, absolutely.
Why not shift that energy into, okay, because for example, I've done a lot of psychedelics in my life. I've done a lot of medicine training. I've served a lot of medicine to a lot of people that you probably know who they are. And famous people, I've brought them into my home. We've gone through everything you can imagine. I've lived in the jungles of Peru. I've done that experiences. I do that with pure intention. It's not about the trip. It's about the lead up. It's about the integration. And it's about the integrity and results I get from that, and how I transition those experiences into my everyday life. So I go into those things like, okay, what am I trying to crack right now? What code am I trying to receive? What in my life right now is something that I'm stagnant on and I've just been lagging on, and I'm not there yet. And I know I'm going to regret it a year from now if I'm not on it. It's the same thing with what you can be experiencing as a woman, because it's in those moments of pain, frustration, fear, confusion, hormonal imbalances. It's the order out of the chaos that you can really, really get to the center point. And that's the whole point of an entheogenic experience. The whole point of sitting with, an ayahuascadero or sitting with another shaman is to go through such a rattling experience that your body goes through a death. It goes through an ego death. You come back out on the other side with less trauma, less pain, and more clarity. My God, you have that opportunity. Women have that opportunity given to them by the Creator to go through that process once every 28 days. Yeah. And then it goes to show how important our nutrition is, how important our connection is to our mother, how important it is to not be bathing in non-native electromagnetic frequencies that can change the brain alchemy, which eventually changes the entire structure of the menstruation. And then, birth control, tampons. I mean, I can't even comprehend how we could have gotten here. It's so mind-boggling. Like, what are we even? How could this even have happened? And so once we rationalize that it's happened and it's here, then we really, I think for you, be so grateful. Just be in that, like, God, wow, I have this perspective.
Thank you. I've never been more proud, because our society teaches us to turn away from the feminine as something weak, and like our sensitivity is just weak, and we kind of I've put on this armor for a long time. So this process of de-armoring has actually made me more raw and sensitive, and it's kind of scary then on what level do we accept what's happening and accept that this is like, because I now am turning to this point where I just want to tell everybody, like, hey, this is fucked up. Why are we totally against like the feminine and everything? I guess and I guess maybe what you're saying is like, the more we shift our consciousness and remain present and turn towards the light of what aligns to us, the more society will shift, the more this world will shift. And that's, I guess, us taking care of ourselves on a personal level will then also change the world.
It's the only way it can happen. I mean, if you read the Tao Te Ching, it has to start from within, right? There's no equal opportunity out there if within is in a vacuum, sealed up tight and confused. How can you pass on your information to somebody else? And we're really stuck in the the illusion right now where so many people want to give advice, so many people want to push their agenda, and they're completely distorted themselves. That's why it's failing, and that's why there's no trust. And so you said follow the light. I would say more clear, follow the truth. And that truth can be any variation of what you believe to be true. So that's another thing. As an embodied master human, you have the right to believe in anything and everything you want. Mm-hmm. That's your God-given, that's your choice. And we don't have to be, left under the dominion of an energy outside of us that's trying to control us. And when it comes to the matriarch, we've really lost that. It's the last 4,000 or 5,000 years, the Kali Yuga, as the Vedics say, has been war, it's been steal, it's been greed, it's been divide and conquer. We're in that right now. We're in the heart of materialism at its finest. So also understanding the history, I really think is important. There's a lot of people, again, I like to always just call both sides of it. There's people in the spiritual community that just don't want to do the work, and they just want to have a good time, and they want to go and burn sage and listen to music and do drugs and cuddle puddle and do all that stuff. I don't resonate with that. At the same time, I don't resonate with going and watching football every Sunday and drinking beers and going back to the hamster wheel, right? I like to find a balance between those worlds. I'd like to find the middle ground between those worlds. And so what I'm saying is that we have to know where we come from in order to know where we're going. And we've forgotten what we've forgotten.
Yeah. Well, and that's what's so interesting is that I think right now, I think what's happening is that, we've had different epochs of like matriarch, patriarch, and now maybe this unsettling rumbling that's happening is now going to shift us into this integrated phase, which I think you and Sam as men like totally embody this masculine and feminine and really have integrated it. And I think you guys are leaders, and like we need that. We need to see that it's okay to have these beautiful conjoined energies that it's so erotic and so life-giving. And so I think this is a really beautiful time. And I just wanted to say about like Lao Tse and the Tao Te Ching, like he was so fed up with politics and famine and war. Like he rode his water buffalo out of town and wrote his beautiful poem, like Tao Te Ching. So it's like, he was obviously like history's repeating itself in a very strange way. Like society just crumbles, I guess, in this like very cyclical
it'll continue to do so.
Okay.
And so what that tells me is at the same time is this is just one big cosmic joke, right? So what is that? Yeah, I think so, because if we looked at if I showed you the data, you would suffer. If you have a conscience, if you have any empathy in your gut, if the microbiome in your gut's still functioning and there's balance with friendly flora there and it's creating neurotransmitters for this thing we call a brain, then if you looked at the data, you would suffer. You couldn't help it. Where we are today, we're saturated in the highest levels of materialism. It's never been like this before, at least in this epoch.
Right.
Maybe 10 epochs before. We don't know. This is the 5th or 6th epoch, depending on how you look at it. So I look at it as the cosmic joke. Am I saying that, oh, whatever, let's just go berserk? No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that it takes a little bit of the pressure off. It takes a little bit of the stress off where
I just heard a little quote. It said, the first step to enlightenment is lightening up.
It's 100%. That's exactly right. And so that speaks on what I just said to perfection. Yeah, thank you for that. And that's exactly it. It's like a human being, our highest truth operates in love. There's no argument in that. I can actually break that down physiologically and show you how oxytocin is created. That's it, within the womb, up into the thyroid, up into the brain. When a woman gives birth, that's why they're trying to give you fake Pitocin. It's ridiculous.
Yes. It's so
Yeah,
crazy because I've just learned about like cervical orgasms. I've been really experimenting with all the different like reflexology points within the vagina. And a cervical orgasm, just like birth, releases oxytocin. And so it's like, why as women do we not know about and experience all the different levels of orgasm? And that's what I've been really like dedicated to, is like, my pussy is my mistress. Like, she tells me what to do, you know? And it's like, that's the connection that I think is so powerful for women. And I really do feel that we are entering an age where women are now starting to come back or return home. And this is what maybe this whole thing is. It's a returning home to who we are and what we're about and our sacredness. So
Dude,
as much as it's like,
hallelujah.
this is a scary time, it's also incredibly like a rich, powerful time.
Yes.
It's so abundant in that.
Yes.
And just hearing you say that, I'm getting primordial like reactions in my physiology because I'm so present in everything inside of me. I've opened those channels up, and most people are looking for an external source for an orgasm.
Yes.
Right? An external source for pleasure, an external source for pain, right? But all of that's in here. It's all here the entire time. It's encapsulated in our breath. It's encapsulated in every nuance of our fibrotic being. It's just incredible what we're missing this whole time. We've basically been detached from the truth. But again, it's not shocking when you see how we're born today, the families we're born into, the way we're raised, the drugs we're given, the schooling system, the entire pressures of society, the bullying, the antagonizing, the competition. It's like
shame. The shame.
All of that. How are we even here breathing? That's a miracle. You actually think about it. Like everyone who's listening on this call right now, most of these people, they know who I am. Just like, dude, give yourself a fucking hand. Like, good God, like, pump your hand in the air and thank your creator, thank the soil, thank our mother. You know, it's like, hallelujah, right?
Amen.
Mm-hmm.
Amen, man. I wanted to share with you. We were talking about psychedelics for a second, and I reached out to you about a year ago before me and my wife went to Peru on our vision quest, and you very graciously shared some things that I put into practice, and on my journey, I met my future son, and a year to the date that happened, we found out that we were pregnant.
Wow. What's the date on that?
October 17th.
Wow. Unbelievable. Dude.
Yeah,
yeah.
And I had another question kind of regarding that. So after that happened, after I met my son, and he wasn't in human form, he was just a ball of light, but the intelligence was still there. We were kind of telepathically communicating with one another. And I was just weeping the whole time. And he was just so happy to see me and me the same. But for the next year, I was having wet dreams very frequently, maybe 3 a month, even after nights that me and my wife would make love. And I'm just curious if you had any thoughts on that. And it's just, I've had a lot of curiosity around it. And again, like, I had more wet dreams in like a month than I had in my entire life. And I wonder if you just had any insight on that or any take on it.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm having them every night, right? And so it's just, what it is you're activated. You're activated completely, and we're men, right? Like, it's different in a certain context in terms of the physiology. A woman can have orgasms 50,000 times a day. It actually, it's encouraged to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Unlimited. Us men, it's a little bit different, right? If you understand Montauk Chia, if you understand semen retention and all that stuff.
Yeah, and that's what I'm worried about. Am I leaking energy? Like,
you're not leaking energy. No way. You're brewing energy. the only way to think about it. If you are masturbating 2-3 times a day, then you're leaking energy, okay? The fact that your body is responding this way and you're in that flow where you're kind of in a quasi-orgasm, because that's kind of what it is. When we're dripping, you know, semen fluid, our body's going through quasi-orgasm. That's what they call it. So it's like a micro orgasms.
Yeah.
That's just Jing, like being prepared for the storm.
Yeah.
That's I mean, that's how the masters look at it. That's how I look at it. Last year I held for like 80 days, and it's kind of like fasting. You know, the first week is tough, but once you get to day 9, you never want to look at food again. And
dude, when I started practicing retention, my skin changed. I had I could almost see a glow around my body, and it's just crazy. I couldn't recommend it enough on just like a very surface level talking about this for people not to just recognize the sacredness of it. And I think it's important to know how to love yourself, but like frequent masturbation, like you said, you're leaking energy. And when I started to have a little bit more reverence for my sexuality, and I started practicing retention, just this incredible glow started forming around my body. My energy was going through the roof. I feel like both the masculine and the feminine were starting to rise up a little bit more in me. I was becoming more sensitive, but I was also becoming more confident. And that's something, even though I've always been a very strong, competitive man, I always kind of struggled with a little bit of confidence in I guess my truth and myself, and that what and who I am, and that my experiences are worth sharing and that they can help people. And when I started that retention, that all just got shifted. And yeah, just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah, well, there's so many reasons for that. There's so many reasons for that. It's not heady science. It's true real data. I mean, if your body's not in the process of having to regenerate its life force, which is basically the seminal fluid, which is filled with proteins, enzymes, growth factors, minerals, Jing, electricity, photons, biotons. It doesn't have to pull from the outside world, so the body gets to a place where it goes into a calmer state. And when you're in a calmer state, you're less aggravated. When you're less aggravated, you're not going into the masculine as much. Then from there, you're balancing into the feminine. It's really, if you understand how the fundamental of this entire structure works, it's why I pride myself on, I wouldn't say pride, that's why I give myself credit for understanding how the body works, so I can understand how the spirit works. They go together. It's spiritual science, right?
Right.
Yeah.
There's infinite wisdom in this. And when you learn how to play this instrument skillfully,
Exactly.
yes,
And
like
that's
it's
what
incredible.
And that's what the Taoist immortals practice.
Yes.
That's what the tantric, Nepalese do. They understand the inner workings of the body. They all have a kind of different circuitry perspective, but at the same time, modern science today and modern biology validates it all across the board. And just think about it. Most of the men out there are completely demineralized and dehydrated. Did you watch my water video on YouTube?
I haven't yet. I will.
Subscribe to Cymbiotika YouTube. I just opened it up.
Okay.
So no one really knows about it. This thing's gonna go. But I just did a water video. You gotta learn what water is, because we're water. We're water and salt. It's just structured a little bit differently. Most men out there and women are completely dehydrated and completely mineralized. What happens if you're dehydrated and demineralized? You have no ability for Jing, and they're orgasming constantly. What are we? We're basically like dried out zombies on every level, and we're doing things out of intention because we're watching porn, or it's unbelievable, the whole thing. I mean, I could talk 10 hours for that. Go ahead.
Well, it's so interesting because like on the same level, and this is what I've been learning, like exploring my inner workings, is that like that's a clitoral orgasm is really like a really cheap, like orgasm, right? That's how we leak energy. And so the more for women that they can explore and activate and innervate their womb and have vaginal orgasms or cervical orgasms, that's where you can then start pulling that energy into the microcosmic orbit. And it's like how Sam said, like when I actually went on a 21-day, like I'm not touching my clitoris. I'm just doing everything internal. And Smart. I can even now ask my subconscious when I go into a dream state, like, hey, I don't want to have like a clitoral orgasm in my sleep. I want to have like a deep, full-bodied, like robust vaginal orgasm. And it's like you can ask your body to do those things, and it change. And my masculine and feminine coming together, like it's like this standing in my truth and understanding how sacred our bodies are. And that's just done through like that first Dantian level, which is our sexuality. And then it moves up all those channels from there. So it's like, that is, I think, like the base level for most humans is understanding their sexuality. And it's so powerful.
Can you imagine being in a partnership with someone that didn't cultivate that or didn't respect that?
Yeah, I have been, and that's
we all have been. I mean, I've been part of that whole chain myself, and it's like it just goes to show like how much gratitude you both need to be having, and that's the first place you start with. And with that gratitude, then you can move mountains, and you can create so much alchemy for people to see and feel into. We got to remove the taboo of the openness, and it's a discipline. It's not one day. You don't read a book on tantric sex and all of a sudden you're a sex alchemist. No, it's like really, really getting into the spirit of things and looking at humanity. Like everybody on this plane of existence, at some point, our mortal bodies are going to transition. Just think about that for a second. None of us are gods. We're God embodiment, but this physical body is we're just renting this avatar. So everybody on this plane of existence will transition at some point. Just think about that. Billions and billions of people, right? So the only thing that gets this thing still going is the union between man and woman, right? But we've taken that practice and completely forgot what it is in terms of the creation of life. And when you do ceremonies like sacred medicine and you go into full bliss moments, you're creating a ripple, basically a spark in the world. And it's the same thing when a man and woman cultivate godly sex and create together, they're creating a spark. Yet on the other side, when it's the opposite, you're creating dark ripples and pain. And then you can understand why there's so many like dark entities doing disgusting things on that side. I don't want to get into the details of that, but why do you think they're doing that? They're doing that because it's the reverse. They're creating a dark negative vibration and they're putting dominion on a human being where they possess them. So it's like, okay, we got to understand the dualities, and by knowing that, we know how critical it is to embody this beautiful lovemaking experience and how like real it has to be and authentic.
Yes, totally. Oh, I love that. Now, just on like a very like, I guess more of a superficial level, I used to be in the CrossFit world and I worked out, a couple hours a day, and it really kind of pulled me away from like my truest nature. Like that was part of my armor. So I just wondered, in your respect, again, I know you're not a woman, but just like throughout your knowledge, how much can a woman, I have to like walk this fine line of like working out, but then also putting into my yin, like it's, really understanding the balance between yang and yin. So it's like, how much do you suggest or would think that a woman could like work out and be hard, go into that hardness, but then also find the softness within that?
Yeah, that's a great question, because I get that asked a lot. And
Okay.
I have a partner that is, fitness freak and it's just so hardcore. And so I think it's finding a balance, and tuning into your body and tuning into your feminine, because us as men, if you're with the divine masculine, we naturally want not an overwhelming amount, but we want you in your feminine. Yeah. It's just our biology, right? It's just how we're designed. And we have to define what feminine means, though, okay? Because we've got it confused. We think feminine is like in your Prada purse and dainty and high heels. nothing against that. That could be sexy for 3-4 nights a year when we go and party in Hollywood. But what I'm saying is like, it's finding balance. And so that needs to be communicated between partners. And because I would ask my partner, what is it that you feeling towards me? What is the vibration you're feeling to me? So there's a mirror, right? And we can mirror and reflect that. Ultimately, at some point, you don't want to get your body fat percentage too low. I mean,
Yes.
I'll tell you that much. And
Yeah.
you don't want to be fasting too much.
Mhm.
So, you know, a lot of women have been intermittent fasting, you know, doing stuff like that. That's not really the best for all body types in terms of your hormonal expression and secretion. And as we know, hormones govern everything in the body. It's the access point to tell what bodily processes to do what. And so if you're manipulating them and causing confusion, you could distort your entire energetic field. And it can start reflecting in terms of your bodily fluids, your face, your pheromones, your desires, your libido, all of those things. So I think for women, I think that the prime place a woman can be is, you know, getting like her fitness training in. A woman should be strong at the root, number one. I think that's why there's all this big craze about big old butts. It's kind of funny because the stronger and bigger a woman's base is, the better. Okay, just like with men, right? When I go and squat, you know, because Sam, I don't know if you saw me like 3-4 years ago, but I was 210 at like 8%. I was jacked. I've been training my whole life. You know, I played baseball my whole life. Played baseball. You know, I'm an athlete. I'm right now 190 at like 10%, lean, strong. I feel really good where I'm at right now. But when we build our legs, build our base, dude, your growth hormone, your pituitary starts firing, and just your presence is so much more rooted, right? And you can see that with like, you know, big bodybuilders with small legs and stuff like that. They're a little bit goofy. And women that don't have that presence on the bottom, it's just not healthy. So knowing the key attributes for a woman to feel embodied emotionally, physically, and chemically is really, really important. And then your diet, of course, is, you know, really, really critical. Is you should know by now what goes inside your body and what doesn't, and how those things will affect your energy centers, your frequency, and just your overall expression to our reality. Look at this stuff. Amazing. Hello, how are you?
Hi, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Just
no, interrupt. You look magnificent.
Dude, she's glowing, man.
Amazing.
Like this, the day we found out, there was a shift in my heart, in her heart, and even externally. Like internally there was a shift, and even externally there was a shift. And both of us just started glowing a little bit differently. And we've always like kind of taken our nutrition seriously, our sleep seriously, our mission, our like everything. We've always been very motivated people, but the day that we found out, man, like we just went to a whole nother level with how we started hydrating, how we started, you know, what minerals we were putting into our body, the cyclical rhythm of our sleep patterns and our nutrition.
The most important thing, by the way, is your sleep. By far, hands down, not even close.
She's the most gangster sleeping machine I've ever met. So
right on.
you can follow my Instagram, Gin Naps. No, I'm just joking.
Yeah, send me a direct message, please, and then we'll link up.
Well, we only have a couple minutes left, and I'm glad that Jenny stopped by for a second. And we got to talk a little bit about birthing, but maybe we'll kind of finish with, do you have anything that you'd maybe like to say for potential mothers or anyone who's currently carrying or looking? Like we mentioned nutrition. For us, like eating more liver has been huge for us. Like and you mentioned sleep is the most important thing. What else would you tell to mothers in regards to cultivating life and how to do that properly, or any resources or and such.
Okay, so first of all, get on Cymbiotika immediately. Get on the Omega product, get on Synergy Methylcobalamin B12, and get on the D3K2 Vitamin A Ubiquinol immediately. Those 3 products alone right now is pretty much salvation for any mother and any child that's brewing in the womb. Hands down, not even close. Number 2, stay away from non-native electromagnetic frequencies. Do not be in Wi-Fi. Do not be around 5G towers. Get away from any urban sprawls immediately. Number 3, hydrate, hydrate, hydrate. And what I mean by hydrate is make sure you're drinking clean spring water and you're adding Celtic sea salt to it twice a day. So 2 teaspoons of Celtic sea salt every day with your spring water. Number 4, movement. Make sure you're moving and staying active. It's probably outside of the nutrition and all that stuff and the breath work, movement. Keep your body moving. Move the body. If you're plant-based, you really need to be on supplements. I don't get into the vegans versus meat eaters or anything like that. I'm personally, I'm the founder of a plant-based company, but I'm personally a qualitarian. Okay, so I've been a qualitarian pretty much my whole life. I only eat quality, right? So that's what qualitarian means. And I think you guys are qualitarians as well.
Yes, sir.
No ultrasound, please. Do not get an ultrasound. It's like microwaving your child and putting their head next to a train track, and that's what they compare it to in terms of the heat sensitivity and the sound from an ultrasound. Get connected to some midwives. Get connected to your doula. Know where you're going to be bringing this child into the earth. Start planning ahead. Know your human design. Start talking to your human design and your child that's in your womb. Start giving him giving him or her the tools necessary, because they can hear and feel everything that you're going through. All emotions that you're experiencing, the child's experiencing too. So it's not about putting emotions into a denial part where you're not thinking about it. No. Go straight to the emotion. That's really important. We know that. That's a Taoist immortal technique, is that if you're dealing with emotion, sadness, grief, all of that stuff, go right to it. If you push it away, you're causing problems for the child. The child's going to be a little bit confused. We don't want that. I could do this for forever if you want me.
We're going to head back out in the desert. This thing's about to cut off in about a minute. I love you, brother, and I honor you, and I'm so blessed to get this time with you, and maybe we'll link back up when we get back out of the desert again.
I'm sending you guys trillions and trillions of blessings. My heart is with you all. I wish I was out in the desert. We usually go to the desert once or twice every year in that area, and we go pick the saguaro cactus, and then I go hunt for the bufo alvarius, which is the strongest psychedelic on earth, which is 5-MeO dimethyltryptamine. Yeah. And it's the medicine that rocket shelled my life, and we'll be sitting in that medicine pretty soon.
Cool. I love you.
Hey, very nice to meet you. What's your name?
I'm Emily.
Emily. Okay, got it. Hey,
so great meeting you. Thank you.
We'll hit you back up. We'll hit you back up next week, my friend.
Yeah. Be well, man.
Yep.
One love, family. One love, family. Boom.
Yep.
Bye.
Bye.